My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we have Ty Doran, who plays Cal Stone on Netflix's hit Manifest. For its final season, part 1, the show starts off 2 years after the brutal murder of Grace turned their lives upside down. The Stone family is in shambles as a devastated Ben continues to mourn for his wife and search for his kidnapped daughter Eden. So to break down what we saw in season 4, part 1, and what is set to come in those final 10 episodes, here's Ty Doran.
My first question, which is, it's kind of a two-parter. So first I wanted to know if you watched Manifest prior to getting cast. And then in terms of playing an older Cal, so you're walking in, taking off Jack Messina's character. Did you look to what he had done prior to coming in to play an older version of him, or did you just go, I don't want to see anything?
First question, I had not seen Manifest prior to the audition. I didn't even know it was for Manifest when I auditioned, like the first couple reads, right? It was all self-tapes. This was early 2021. So everything was still kind of locked down. No, people weren't going outside. Everything is self-tape, right? And they're in New York anyway, and I was in Los Angeles at the time. And so they sent me like sides where all the names were changed. It didn't say Cal or anything like that, right? It was like Mark or whatever it was. And it was like a scene with his sister who would like a hypothetical like Cal Olive scene. I think they were just trying to get like arranged and see like, okay, here are some like ideas of scenes we might do in a season 4, and does this kid who looks like Jack Messina, can he act that at all? And so that was a long process of reading that, and then eventually I met with Jake or Jeff. I don't know, Jake. It's way too early. But Jeff Rake. I just combined the two, and
You made a word. There you
yes,
go.
exactly. I knew what. See, I'm just trying. I'm modeling myself after Josh.
So,
the cap is me. He's my dad now. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, so for anyone listening, you have to go listen to Josh Dallas's podcast because he made up a word and spread it onto his son. So you just made up a word. So there you go.
It's infectious. Just like Josh's smile. After a few times, they let me know what the show was, and so I started watching, and you know, I told my mom, and she was ecstatic. She was a huge Manifest. I had no idea she had been watching it. The only reason I hadn't seen it is that I didn't have cable. Like it was on NBC, and I pulled the plug a long time ago on the broadcast because there's so many streamings. You can't have all the things. Right. And I figured cable was the one to drop. And then it dropped on, it was on Hulu and Netflix and all these things. And I just devoured it. And so watching it, I paid particular attention to Jack Messina for sure, because he is doing like lovely work over the course of 3 seasons. Like, I hadn't seen the 3rd season at the time, but I had before shooting season 4. And I just sort of, watched him and got, just became a huge Jack Messina fan. I devoured the show and tried to pick up on as many mannerisms and like a sort of through line with the character as much as possible, because it's important, I think, and we thought in making the show that it feels it's as seamless a transition as possible, right? This should be the same. It's the same character in a different body. You know what I mean? And so, yes, I think there are choices that I made that are like Ty acting in there, right? But I am stealing absolutely as much as I can from the great work that Jack Messina did, because it's fantastic. And that is Cal. He created this character, and I am just taking on the mantle, sort of.
Did you guys meet at all in person?
Yeah. So when I went and shot that ending scene of season 3, I met him. It was his last day of shooting when I went in to like get my hair cut a couple of days before I shot the thing. And so we met, and I met his mom and his dad, and we chatted, and that was lovely. And then I've seen him a couple times since then, because they live out in New York, but mostly it has been a one-sided relationship where I'm just watching him from afar, and he is off doing his high school things now. He's the real high schooler out in the world doing that thing. So he's got much more important stuff going on than whatever's going on with me and Manifest and all that.
But it's interesting that both of you met. The world didn't explode in a Manifest world. I feel like that would be like super crazy. So
we touched fingertips, and then a rift in reality opened up. And we got sucked in. That's why we're all in this weird alternate dimension. Everything weird that's happened in the news lately, Jack and I's fault. Yeah, it's an alternate reality.
It's the two cows that did it to us.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I didn't know.
Well, we have something in common because I also didn't watch Manifest until Monica introduced it to me. And well, how did you find out suddenly being on this huge set, and then you didn't know about Manifest before, and then you were in this set and you were like, oh my god, this is so huge, oh my god, what I have to do, oh my god, the whole fandom, because obviously fandom brought it back.
I think that is what really made me realize how much people care about the show. I mean, I knew it was popular, and I could see why. I had seen the first 2 seasons going into season 3, and then I watched season 3 as it came out and all of that. And then that summer after season 3 aired, and everybody and the show got canceled, and the fans lost their minds and literally saved the production. It was crazy. I mean, you see those little campaigns every time a show gets canceled, and it is usually just nice, and that's great, and it's awesome that people show their support, but it usually doesn't result in anything tangible happening. But there was so much overwhelming support and love for the show. People really, really cared, and I didn't know. I had not experienced that at all, and so watching, I mean, it got me excited and not that I wasn't excited before, but oh boy, when we were coming back, the energy was electric, almost this whole season. And it really kept you for a year of work, long days and the cold and the heat and all those things. It was stressful sometimes for everybody, but nobody ever got bitter, because it was that we all felt so lucky to be there, and to get to finish this story and work together and spend this time with each other. It was fantastic. And that energy, that surge that happened when the show got canceled carried us through shooting the whole show. It was really remarkable, and I don't know, I hadn't experienced anything like that. That is truly an audience investing and caring and lifting up art that they like, and we were the beneficiaries of that, and I just feel so lucky.
Do you have a show you would love to bring back on screen?
That's a great question. You know what? Atlanta, I'm working my way through the last season. That show should just continue going on forever. I don't care if Donald Glover wants a life, or if Brian Tyree Henry has other projects to do with Brad Pitt or whatever. I don't care. We need to be making more Atlanta. That is some of the best television out there. That would be the show. I know it didn't get canceled. It is coming to a natural conclusion. I don't accept that. That's not for me. I'm wanting a little bit more.
No show that good should be canceled.
Yeah. They're not people. They should just keep making stuff that we like forever.
For sure.
It's so funny you should say that, because so many of us would probably say that about Manifest. We'd be like, all right, it's cool, we'll know what happens, but then what happens after? It's almost like, when it ends and everything's hopefully happy, and then they pull the camera away from a movie, and you're like, no, I just want to see them now, just living life, or just doing their thing. So that's what makes a great show. And Manifest is definitely one of those. I know it's gonna end, and I'm like, no, I want to see more of the Stones, or I want to see more of the family, and
Yeah. I don't know, not to spoil too much, but I think the plane lands in a rocky but interesting way. I think you're gonna leave with a satisfying taste in your mouth. I don't know that it's happy, like you say, but it is it's something.
So I want to ask you, so we talked, obviously, so you met Jack, you kind of prepped and did your preparation. What was it like when you kind of stepped onto set, you're meeting everybody, and now you're going to tell the storyline that is literally integral. Like you're like the integral part of this show, or your character Cal. I mean, everything kind of relies with him and even kind of falls back to him constantly on a regular basis. So what was that like for you? Like kind of coming on and meeting all these people?
So I am like kind of an introverted person. I mean, I can handle a conversation, but my social battery drains pretty quickly, and I thought coming on that it was going to be very overwhelming. I didn't know. I was trying to, you know, build up a mental sort of like, okay, I need to focus and like do my job and know what I need to do, and there's going to be a lot going on that I need to deal with, but like they're what's important is staying focused. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, it was overwhelming in a way, but never in a bad way. It was everyone there from day one, like brought me in, made sure I was feeling welcome, got to know me as a person and what I needed in terms of support from my fellow cast to the producers to the other crew on set. It was like it really is a team, and everyone had such a supportive attitude, right? Like there was never a second of like, who is this? Like, what's going on here? It is like, who are you? What? I'm blah blah blah. I'd love to meet you. How? Like, do you want to blah 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 blah? It was I the adjustment happened so fast, and like truly all I had to do was be like hi, and everybody else did the rest. They wanted to get to know me and wanted to help as much as possible and bring me into this family that had been working together and spending time with one another for years now. And I don't know, that meant the world because it could have gone a whole other way. I agree. Like in my mind, it was going to be completely overwhelming, and I would never know anyone's name, and no one was going to like me, and I'm the new kid, and who am I going to sit with at lunch, and all of that kind of stuff. It was, but none of that happened. Like it truly, they made it. Everyone there with like just like love and warmth made it easy. Like all I had to do was act and learn my lines. That's basically all I had to do, because everyone else was so great and so easy to play and work with.
What's your first memory of filming on set?
My first memory on Manifest, I mean, so most of what I did when I did season 3, I was out in New York for about a week, and I only had one scene. It was also the last scene of season 3 that they shot. So like, I'm crying over my dead mother as people are like popping champagne and celebrating finishing a season during a pandemic after like the vibes were interesting. But my first memory there was I spent hours and hours and hours in the basement of Silver Cup with Satoko, who is the best hairdresser you've ever met. She is the nicest woman ever. And it was her job to make my hair match Jack's hair. And so I came in with like LA sun bleach. My hair was like down to here. It was like almost red. It had got like red and blonde. It was so sunny. And they were like, what happened? Did you bleach your hair between now and the audition? And I was like, no, I've just been in Los Angeles. It's very sunny. And so we must have dyed my hair 4 different times. We were doing the whole salon thing, like for hours, and we just got to know each other. And that was like truly like the introduction. She was like one of the first people I ever met who worked on the show. It was great. Like that's when I knew I wasn't going to have a problem, because it was immediate and like the conversation flow. And one thing I hate is going and getting my hair cut or like anything. That social interaction is like the hardest thing in the world for me. Because like they're behind you, but you don't want to like look at them working in the mirror because nobody wants to be watched as they're doing their job.
Super
But then like,
awkward.
and you're trying to like make conversation, but you can't see them. And like sometimes you don't know how much they want to talk to. Like some people really want to talk to you and some people don't at all. Gives me so much anxiety.
Oh my gosh.
That part being so easy meant that it was a place with good people.
So I totally relate to that. So that going so well when you, like I said, though, when you read the script though, because for me, I would feel kind of overwhelmed when you read the script because there's so many intersecting, right? So you watch the show and you're up to, so you're aware of like where we're up to. But then when you read the script, how is that when you're dealing with an arc that's so intertwined and so connected?
I mean, it's about, I think, working together as like an ensemble. I think, and you know, behind the scenes too, talking with the creative team, everyone being on the same page. Like we rely on Jeff and our writers and our directors that came in to sort of, you know, string all of that together, and like us personally working together and talking about it. But it is, it's interesting because you can't get too bogged down in it because we would only get scripts maybe like a week, 10 days before we start shooting that episode. So there wasn't a ton of time to really dwell on it. You didn't know what was going on. We all were as lost as anyone, right? We had no idea how this was going to end. We were like very excited to find out. Every time a new production draft got into my email, I read it immediately. I was very excited. And but in actually telling the story, a lot of the work was focusing on, I mean, communicating all of that exposition and that sci-fi, the mythology of the show and propelling that forward is a task in and of itself. But the real work that we were doing together, the art making, is the sort of the relationships between these characters. You know what I'm saying? And that's not something that changes as radically as like the method, right? Because there are like plot twists and like, oh my god, the sapphire and blah 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 blah, and it's all very exciting and it happens so fast, especially when we're moving on this 20 episode timeline, right? To like try and finish this story. But the human interactions, right? The family stuff, the dynamics between the characters is much more of a slow burn, you know, and it takes place over this whole part 1 and part 2 and all of that stuff. And it is, that's what you can really latch on to as an actor and as an ensemble, and what we could work on together, despite not knowing how the show, like where we were necessarily going from the big picture side and the small little interactions. And those carry through, and it is a gift almost to not have the whole story as you are working on it, because you are making discoveries as the characters are as well. I have a problem sometimes, like I've worked a lot in theater, and right, that is something where you very much have the whole story laid out in front of you, and you know what's going to happen from minute 1 to minute whatever. And I find the working in television interesting because you can't play the end at the beginning. You don't know what it is. And so you are living in that moment as an actor because you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen next, as opposed to when you do know where the story's going, where you do know exactly what's going to happen, what you're going to be doing in an hour and a half. It's different, and it colors the rest, right? That ignorance is sometimes priceless because you can't put that genie back in the bottle, you know?
I'm so happy that they brought you in because you not only, yes, look like him and everything, but like Jack, but you did such a great job of continuing Cal. It was seamless. There was no type of like, oh, that's not believable. It was so believable when you walk in. All of your scenes are so believable. And to bring it to that human level, I love that. Like, I love that it's so based on this family, right? And so based on just human interaction, human connection. There's so many themes in the show. Like, we could go crazy talking about how much it like kind of parallels what's going on in this country. Like, there's so many things that are going on that are so serious, but at the same time, it all comes back to humanity. I do think in this scenario, you're right in that it helps you as an actor because in life, we don't know what's coming next, right? So we just get to kind of see you guys as family members grow and then deal with as things are kind of getting thrown at you week by week as actors as you're reading them, right? So I think in that process, it works so well for you.
So sweet of you to say. That was super important to us in the room.
How did you prepare for like emotional scenes?
It depends on the day, right? Sometimes you walk into work and you are emotional and you're like, awesome, we're just going to use what we got going already. it's a sad day, but that's helpful. Like music is really useful for me. I especially, it's interesting. I find like music I listened to when I was younger and like a more emotional version of myself, um, more helpful because it kind of takes me back, especially when you're playing a character who is, younger. When you're playing, right? In theory, I'm playing 15 in the show, so it's music like oh, such sad boy stuff, like Great Big World or what like Frank Ocean, and but like the sad boy Frank Ocean, like we're talking blonde, like real deep in it. Or even like, oh my god, that song, The Christmas Shoes?
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. That's
about
yes.
oh my god,
This is like super
if I just need to, if I'm like, okay, hey Ty, we really need you to get some tears in this. I'll be like, okay, give me 2 minutes. I'm gonna go listen to the little boys choir sing Christmas Shoes, because it is the sad. It like I every time I hear that song, I weep. It is the truly the saddest thing I've ever heard.
You were in like full Oasis mode. This is like Wonderwall, Oasis,
Yes,
like
exactly.
like
It's
that whole world.
absolutely that kind of vibe. Or there was a song called "Wasn't Expecting That" by Jamie Lawson. I would give it a listen. It is sad, but it's good. It's the that's a song in which like it's so interesting because it ends musically in a very weird place, and it leaves you wanting more song. You're like, oh, the song's just over. That's surprising.
What is your favorite memory on set?
There's a lot. The funny thing is, everyone who, and this is true largely of people who work in the entertainment industry, it's a bunch of kids. Like we're put in a room for so long together, and we just have to like make some show. And like some of that is like requires a lot of focus, and some of it is like, okay, we're waiting around for 20 minutes. Let's see what we can do. So there was, talk about whoopee cushions, fake cockroaches. John Reyes, our sound mixer, he had this interesting little like an air gun. You would it was like a tube with plastic over the end, and you could stretch back like a little like ball on elastic, and it would thump the plastic, and it would shoot like air out of it, and you could feel it, and he could get you across the stage. It was really incredible. It had range, this thing. That it truly, all sorts of things happened while we were there. A favorite memory, at least from the beginning, would be I really enjoyed working on episode 7 of this part, the one that Josh directed, where I do karaoke and go on a little date and all of that stuff. Al does not get to smile a lot in this show and just like laugh and be a kid. That was a time in which I got to do that, and was such a nice change of pace, especially heading into the work we were doing with Cal at the end of the season. Favorite memory, even though it was kind of traumatic, and Sarah, who plays Violet, is like the nicest, coolest person you've ever met. I mean, they all are, but so like no surprise, but she is also great. And we were that karaoke. We shot on location for a lot of that stuff. Like we were in Astor Place. I'd never shot in Manhattan before. That was also like insane and awesome. And like my cousin, who is working in New York, was just walking past and like saw someone shooting in Astor Place and was like, that's annoying. And then she went and saw who it was. She was like, is that Ty? And like texted my great aunt, and then she texted my mom, and then my mom texted me. She's like, Katie's there. And I'm like, what? It was that was very fun. But the actual karaoke scene where we're singing is on our soundstage. They built like one of those little karaoke rooms, and it was so tiny. It like really, we're cramped in there, especially when they brought the cameras in and had to put the walls back. So it's like it's me and Sarah like next to each other on the couch, and then like 6 people, like the camp, like just off screen. There's like sound, Ryan on camp, like it is so tight in there, and they're pumping like smoke, and there's all those lights going on, and we're like singing karaoke. I thought I was gonna have a seizure, but an absolute blast. I mean, talk about getting like a little punch drunk. Josh, to everybody was there, like disco ball. We were all just kind of having a party, listening to like "I Stop the World" and melt. It was a blast. It was a little disorienting, but very, very, very fun. Everyone was in a really great mood because we were just so excited to be, doing something lighthearted.
And I thought you were inside one of the rooms, like downstairs.
Yeah. Oh my God, they did an
Karaoke.
incredible job. They built that just for that scene. They like the art, like they created a karaoke room.
Like I literally thought that was one of the rooms, like in there. I mean, that's how like I was like, oh, you guys filmed in there. That's awesome. And the rooms are not that big, but it would have been bigger at least for like cameras and stuff. But wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But it worked out totally fine. And the stuff they are able to pull off, like, right, it is truly incredible. I will go into a stage one day and it's a house, like you walk into the house and it's a total house. And then like a week later you walk in and it's a cellar or an attic or whatever, totally dressed, covered in props. And they're like, yeah, touch whatever. It's all great. The boards are all exactly right in the million different places they all put them, all the passengers and the strings and all of that. The work that art and set deck and all those people on the crew do is truly incredible. The scale and scope of this show in that regard is insane. And those are some really, really talented people.
For sure. The karaoke scene is obviously one of the most heartfelt moments, I guess. Like because we see Cal on such a different side, in love, something so completely different to his character before. How did you play it? Or like, how did you prepare? Because like for this, there wasn't any rule. Like you never saw the other, like Jack Messina doing this scene before, like having those feelings.
Yeah. I mean, right, you're always working from a base of like your idea of a character, right? What they are going through, what they've been through, and where they're coming from in that moment. With that scene in particular, just kind of to be like, have fun. Like it was like Josh directing, Sarah was there, I got to meet her, she's fantastic. It just, really the work there was just letting me in like infectious sort of buzz of like getting to be in Manhattan or like doing karaoke or whatever it may be, infiltrate the scene, right? Just like allowing that joy and like relief that I was feeling into Cal. Then the episode ends and that scene was a little different. And then that's when you get to pull from, right, that great, that is much more in line with the rest of Manifest. And I know I've seen how Cal reacts in that situation. And right, I'm just trying to further that story.
So what was it like? Obviously we find out that Cal is almost like the yin to Angelina's yang in the sense that you guys balance each other out in some sort of way that I'm assuming we'll find out more in part 2. So you're dealing with that, and then you find out that your character is going to have a recurrence of cancer, and that takes place pretty quickly. I mean, he's deteriorating like very fast. So what kind of change did you make? Because you go from, yes, now I need to show everybody that I'm playing him, that he's an adult, this is Cal, okay, now I have to take on this additional layer and show all of these changes that are happening to him, and that there's a little more of an adult kind of connection that he's having with other characters. So what did you do there to make that work? Because those are the scenes that when you look on Twitter are the most people are just hysterical when they found out that he had cancer. We were all concerned that he wasn't going to make it, like, so those were the most emotional scenes. So what did you do to get to that place and add that on?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was, I mean, this Cal goes through so much in this show. It is, I can't, the strength that this kid shows and resilience and optimism is truly remarkable. The cancer diagnosis is something that we were, right, we start hinting at that pretty early in part 1 with the coughing and the blood and all of that stuff. And it's something that I was thinking a lot about and is something I really wanted to, play with honesty and be not like a caricature of or like an idea of what someone who is sick and like just trying to garner pity instead of being honest. Cancer, right, we all have experiences with cancer in our lives, unfortunately, to some degree. And so drawing from personal experience, and specifically, there's a documentary that was part of sort of my research into, what it was like. Because, right, I've not been lucky enough to not been diagnosed with cancer. So I watched this documentary called A Lion in the House, which follows a few different pediatric cancer patients, I think in a hospital in Cincinnati. And it is a beautiful, heart-wrenching documentary that I think everyone should watch. It's long, but if you're ready to cry, it is a really, really honest look into the families and kids affected by this kind of stuff. And so, well, because it's not a spectacle. I worry about treating it like a story, just like a plot device. You know what I mean? And Cal is so much more than a cancer patient. Every human being is so much more than like whatever illness or things that happen to them. And I didn't want that to become like a defining thing and just like, oh, here's this for a second and we'll make you feel sad, and then it's gone and doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It is deeply personal, but it's also not all of who that is, right? It is a fully fledged human being with an illness. They are not defined by that.
Yeah, and you do such a great job because it isn't gratuitous. It's not used just to like move the story forward. It's there. There's 3 reasons why I think that works. One is the way you did it, the way you acted it. I know the lines obviously are in the script, but it's also the way that you had like portrayed that. The second would be the fact that the character is written in a way where he's like, go do what you need to do. Like, don't stay here with me. I'm good. And even though he's not good, he's going like, life you have to move on and kind of do things. So while they're all doing that, and then the third has to go out. I mean, props to Matt Long for the connection with Zeke, because Cal and Zeke's connection is what changes that moment. Because instead of being like, oh, we're going to be sad, he's going out of his way to do all of these things for him. It's like a bucket list.
Mhm.
But the relationship the two of you were able to portray took it away. It's like you're watching it, this is an upsetting moment, like we don't know where where your character's going to go and what's going to happen to Cal, but it did help during those scenes. It did kind of take you outside of it for a minute, and you were like, oh, they're so cute, and oh, there's connections. And for Matt to have these flashbacks, going forward, Z to have these flashbacks of you being younger, like younger Cal, and like what's going on, and to see Jack again and all of that, and it all connect back and circle in. It wasn't done in a way, for me at least, that felt I need to just put it there. Like it felt like it was there, but there were so many other things going on. And my favorite moment in that whole thing is when Cal knows, like, time's coming, and he goes, I think you should call them now. Like, so they're all out, they're all doing things, they just saved people. He doesn't know this. They just saved all these people, and he goes, now's the time. Like, now is the time for them to come and, handle, I guess, like, deal with it. He didn't want them to be there the whole time, And when all of that is happening, you mix in Zeke realizing, this is why I'm here. My purpose is to save him and to help him. And so the two of you together making that is what makes it not a salacious thing. It's there, it's part of the storyline, but it's so much more than that because of what everyone else is doing too. That's kind of like a long segue of kind of saying, not only is that like super important, and you did such a great job in that scene, but what was that like building that with Matt? Because the two of you, I mean, I was so emotional because that everybody like connects with cancer in one way or the other. I had it in my introvert family, but when I watched that, I related to it so much on so many levels. And to see him just have a buddy and someone that was there that takes it from him, takes it knowing that he's going to die, is just, I think, one of the most beautiful things of the entire show.
I mean, that's so nice of you to say, and I agree. I think Matt is, I mean, one of the most, talented actors, but like the best compliment I can give him is like he is one of the most generous scene partners I have ever worked with. His work, he comes in ready, right, and set, and knowing what he wants to do and has a plan and has, figured it out, thought a lot about it, done his work, and then brings it every time, and is not, despite all that work he has done, not rigid, and is willing to play with you and be a partner and a collaborator as an artist and build that together, right? To just let a scene go as, because when you get the sides or the script or whatever, we're not, the actors are oftentimes not in those concept meetings, right? We don't know how it's going to be blocked or staged or even necessarily where it's going to take place in the house. We do for the cancer scenes, right? I'm stuck in the bed, but there's a lot going on. And so you have to let all of that influence what's happening. And I just kind of follow Matt's lead. He is carrying those scenes. I'm dealing with my own stuff, right? I'm in bed. I don't have very limited options sort of as an actor. Whereas Matt, he he connects. He is someone who you as a scene partner and the audience can really connect to. And I think those scenes are so important because they show the humanity and the relationship between these two people, because Cal, especially over the course of part one, has no one. The biggest thing he's going through is how lonely he is. He can't go outside. He can't tell people his real name. His dad is off doing God knows what. The rest of his family is so busy, and he's just stuck at home all the time, with no one to talk to, and absolutely no one who can understand what's going on with him, because it is unfathomable. And then there's Zeke, and over the whole course is just supportive and a friend and someone that Cal can rely on. And all he wants is love and support and to be a part of this family and to help, and then is not getting any of that, especially from his male role model and his father. And then Zeke makes the ultimate sacrifice for this kid, and that's, it truly is a full circle moment. He's so alone, and then there's this one person who literally holds his hand through this process and helps, takes it away from him, gives everything, literally everything, for Cal, which no one wants to help. Cal's kind of bullied through most of this season, and it is, I just think, I don't know, Matt is the person you would want there, right? He can play, and in all those scenes with Melissa and over the court from season one, he is, I think the reason why people really connect to Zeke is how supportive and there for you he is, what a partner he is to Michaela and to Cal and to everybody. He's full of love in a very smart and emotionally mature kind of way that a lot of the characters are not in the show. And I agree with you that it is that work that makes those scenes about Zeke and Cal, not about cancer.
Yeah, and it reiterates, and I mentioned this to a couple of cast members, the fact that you guys are everyday heroes, right? So you guys are saving the world and doing all these things and are risking your lives with no answer as to what's going to happen. And here's Zeke, everyday guy, right? Who is given a second chance and is aware of that and gives up his second chance because he had his time for someone else. And who could say that they would do that, right? In that scenario, it's just so mind blowing. But these are everyday heroes. You have eventually, I kind of joked with Josh, eventually when you get Ben kind of out of the Unabomber attic, he's back to helping people, but he was helping people in the beginning. And you have Michaela and all of these kind of characters that kind of grew out, and Jared, and just everybody trying to help. But to me, the biggest thing of the entire show was that moment, because you're giving your life knowingly. You were sitting there knowingly doing that because he wants Cal to be around to save the world and to save everybody else, and whatever that message will end up being. It was just a moment in this show that will go down as a moment, if that makes sense. I don't think anything even if we get shocked in the end, and even, you know, wherever these characters are, nothing will take away from that couple minutes that we see them together.
In any sort of story, it is the reaction to something that really hits home. And oh my God, does Matt and Melissa do a great job with his speech. I mean, I get to just like peace out. I'm basically dead, right? I'm just asleep on the bed. But Matt has that whole monologue on that phone call with her, and then she comes in and finds him on the ground and is just holding him in his arms, and he's like, it is that work. I mean, like really take some onus off of me because I get to just lay there and they make the whole moment themselves. But it is that is some of the most beautiful work on the show, and I really love what they did with that, because it's all in a horror movie. It's the actors being afraid of the monster that makes you afraid of it. You know what I'm saying? It is the oh my God, the goodbye from Matt, and the gut wrenching to accept that, or refusal to accept that from Melissa is just, I mean, it really sells it.
Did you know, like, from reading the first script that this moment will happen, or were you like leading literally to it?
I had no idea. I found out about how that plot line was going to play out probably a little earlier than others. That Jeff and Matt talked about it very early on in the season, and sort of came to an agreement. And I was told, so the reason I got clued in like a little early, probably when we were shooting like episode 6 or so, was that we were talking about like shaving my head and all of that stuff. So they were like, hey, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I look messed up in that. I've gotten texts from friends and family members. Episode 9, I think, opens with like a shot of me and Josh in the like doctor's office, and I all of a sudden have the hair and the makeup and all of that stuff, and I look brutal. And I've had like people will text me be like, are you okay? Or oh God, when I was on set, I would like FaceTime and I'd be like, hey, what's up? I need to like blah 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 blah. And they'd be like, hold on. Are you all right? Like, are you sleeping? What's going on with you right now? No. It's makeup. They shit, like it's all fake.
How would you describe your Cal in the next season in 3 words?
Man with a purpose would be what I want to say. But like that is technically 4 words. Cal in 2 is coming in hot, right? Like what we just talked about. He has this now mission. They saved his life. If he doesn't save the world, what was that for? You know? And he is carrying that level of guilt. And so, like, I mean, nobody can stop this kid. He's been running away since day 1. If he thinks he can help, like he is in the action, wants to be there. And I think in part 2 is when we really take it to. I mean, there's another time jump, and Cal is a little older now. I think he's matured. He has come into this body a little bit more, and now is when he really wants to get down to business. You know what I'm saying? Little less angsty dad, little more let's save the world, baby.
More badass.
I think if I can say man with purpose.
So is there something that you're gonna miss? Because this cast, I feel like, is the most family, like friends for life type of cast. So is there something that you're gonna miss daily, like from shooting?
All sorts of things, right? Yeah, I was lucky enough to have a track that it interacted and it had scenes with like lots of different people. So we were on set together a lot of the time. You pick up on each other's little like mannerisms, right? And like you develop a work relationship and like what you talk about when you're there. And oh my God, I spend so much time with Luna Blaze, and I would not change that for the world. I will miss like hearing the tea, like laughing, like all those things with her. She is a blast and can put a smile on my face like few people can. She is just one of the most fun people, and I definitely miss hiding out in the corner in our little chairs, just like talking for like a while. And unfortunately, I just got back to Los Angeles about a week ago, and she left basically the same time I was getting in. I miss that girl desperately. So that's what I'm thinking of right now. But really, all of that. I miss talking to Matt about fragrances and whiskey. I miss Josh's songs. I miss Melissa's like witty comments. All of that stuff. We are coworkers and a family, and we spend so much time together. I miss that. I miss the people.
is there anything that you want to say to the fans that love the show? I mean, obviously you probably are aware it went to #1, which I don't think was a shocker, but I mean, it's like millions and millions and millions of people spent hours watching the show. I'm sure part 2 is going to be even crazier. So they don't all get to talk to you like we do and become besties.
Yeah, I wish.
So what would you tell fans that are just so in love with it, that brought it back, loved this first part, and that are like dying with like for part 2 and just want to see what happens to everybody?
It's gratitude. It is. I have made incredible friends. I lived in a city I never thought I was going to in New York for a whole year, and that was a blast and was scary and terrible and awesome and the most fun. And I cried, and I met all these beautiful people. I mean, on the outside, but like really the inside. Yeah. It was a very hot set. Yeah. But it was also like just the nicest people, and have become such good friends and important people in my life. And, that experience would not have happened. I would not have met those people, made those friends, like had all the laughter and like love that happened over the past year of my life without the support and like love of this story that the fans have had. So selfishly, I just like thank you. It really was nice for me. I got to hang out and have a blast and like make art, and it really was so great. We got to finish this story, and that meant so much to so many people, including me. All I hope for in terms of part 2 and what I would consider a success, I guess, is a nebulous idea for the show, is that that what we made gives you that sense of closure and finality. I don't know how else to express my gratitude other than to say it as many times as I possibly can. And we did our best making the show, and hopefully people feel like we have, if not closed the book, closed this chapter of sort of this story.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Ty Doran talk about everything Manifest and what's to come. Manifest Season 4 Part 1 is currently available now on Netflix, so make sure you go and check it out. Part 2, with those final 10 episodes, are set to premiere sometime next year. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.